So, did you know they may have solved the Jack the Ripper case? The news cycle's been so crazy, I've been like, did I miss it? This news is from 2014. They're just stirring it up. And maybe it needs another look. I'm a trained profiler. I've gotten lucky a couple of times. Now get ready for all the disclaimers. I've looked at no source material. This case is 150 years old. Policing then is not the same as policing now. I've used articles on what other people said about the case and ChatGPT. My wife was like, "You're going down a rabbit hole." I spent all the 3 hours looking at this. When the old detective switchboard gets turned on, it's hard to turn it off. People have spent years looking at this case. That's how much credibility I have. Okay, the meat and potatoes. A shawl that was possibly owned by one of the victims was purchased at an auction. Not exactly the best chain of custody. It has the victim's DNA and also the blood of the number 2 suspect in the case. They have it DNA tested. It comes back to not only the victim, but also the great-great-great-great-granddaughter of the suspect. The FBI has come up with organized and disorganized killers. Jack the Ripper doesn't really fit in either one completely. This is who they come back to. Meet Aaron Kosminski, a Polish immigrant. Knowing nothing about the case, does he fit the profile? Kinda. If you know nothing about the Jack the Ripper cases, let me bring you up to speed. 5 women killed, all with a certain MO. Possibly as many as 11, probably many more. He killed prostitutes. Prostitutes in the 1800s. Usually in their mid-40s, alcoholics, and not respected at all by society. So a lot of his crimes probably were reported, but they were ignored. He didn't just start killing women. It's just nobody cared. So already I'm making a big fat assumption. Organized killer characteristics. He operated at night, on the weekends. So maybe he had some kind of a job. Organized enough to get his victims secluded, like in a back alley. He strangled them, then when they were unconscious, he opened their arteries and bled them out. He cut them open and then removed their uteruses. All but one. And that one he probably got interrupted, because he killed someone else later that night. To do all this, you kind of have to have a rudimentary understanding of anatomy. They thought he might have been a butcher, and they were close. This guy was a barber. Barbers then aren't what they are today. They could cut your hair, they were dentists, and they could do minor operations. Bloodletting was a big thing. The barber pole is a representative of the bandages that they used and the pole that the people grabbed onto to allow the bloodletting. They thought he could have been a surgeon, but the cuts were too ugly. They thought maybe he used some kind of a dagger. This is a surgeon's scalpel in the Victorian era. So is this. So not the little scalpel they use today. So, organized. He probably had writings and drawings of this fantasy. He probably visited the victims' graves. So, disorganized. On one of the nights, he gets interrupted because he's in somebody's backyard. Not well planned. Disorganized killers are usually animals. They're crazy. Usually can't hold a steady job because of it. They don't plan their attacks. Like one of the moms killed in New York that was a runner. She was killed with a rock and was SA'd. That's a disorganized killer. No planning, didn't even bring a weapon. This killer's never going to stop unless something happens. This guy's admitted to an insane asylum around the times the killings stopped, showing signs of what might be today schizophrenia. One of the detectives on the case says that this guy didn't hold a job for a couple of years because of it. The killings happen in a certain part of East London that make a triangle. Organized killers work in an area they're comfortable with. They probably live there. At the same time, the killings just stop. There's only 3 or 4 people that fit these circumstances. My understanding in the UK, they can't charge somebody posthumously. You can here, it's just very unusual. Because you got a backlog of living people, why are you wasting time on dead people? Do they have their guy? Maybe. If you watch my videos for any amount of time, you know I'm an Occam's razor kind of guy. In police work most of the time, the simplest answer is usually the right answer. Sorry for such a long video, but that's my 2 cents. Be aware and be safe.